Hello and welcome to another episode of the PintSizeAnalyze podcast. In this week's episode, I'm going to be talking about the ending of the Ty France era in Seattle, Julio Rodriguez's fantastic July, some injury updates for J.P. Crawford, Julio Rodriguez, Dominic Canzone, and others, as well as a minor league catch-up, and what do I believe a successful trade deadline would look like for the Mariners. Let's get started. So the first thing that I'm going to be talking about is the Ty France era being over in Seattle. So let's just start with let's go to his Fangraphs page, and I'm just going to talk about kind of the year that he's had up to this point, and just give an overall look again at his career in Seattle, because I kind of want to highlight it. He finished overall as a Seattle Mariner with, well, actually, let me see, partial seasons. And then well, actually, I'm not sure how I would need to go all the way back to game log, which I think is going to be kind of annoying. But let me just say, so Ty France arrived in Seattle in the trade for the Mariners received Ty France, Andres Munoz, Taylor Trammell, who was a top 100 prospect at the time, and catcher Luis Torrens. The San Diego Padres received relievers Austin Adams and Dan Altavilla, and they got catcher Austin Nola. It was Austin Adams, I believe. And that's who the Mariners received in that trade. It ended up being a huge win for the Mariners. Austin Nola is obviously not even in the Padres organization anymore, and neither are those pitchers. Ty France was hitting very well that year. He had a 139 WRC plus at the time of being traded to the Mariners. Before, he posted a 130 WRC plus, hitting 302 with a 362 on base and 453 slug. And he posted 0.6 F4 in just 94 plate appearances for the 2020 Mariners. And then he began 2021. That was his first full year in the organization. And he hit 291, 368, 445. It was his best year as a Seattle Mariner by WAR. He posted 3.2 F4 that year, finished with a 129 WRC plus, and really was just the team's arguable best player that year. I believe he was by F4. And then 2022 was arguably, though, France's most notable season in Seattle. He was an all-star that year. He finished with a 274, 338, 436 slash line for a 125 WRC plus. He posted 2.5 F4 that year, and he was really just a great player. He had a ridiculous first half, posting like a 145 WRC plus before an unfortunate injury in Oakland, where he was collided into by, I believe it was Sheldon Noisy of the Athletics, and that ended up putting him on the injured list, and he really didn't recover that season, and arguably as a player after that, although he actually was hitting pretty well this year. Last year was a down year for France. He hit only 250, 337, 366 for 104 WRC plus. He posted only 1.1 F4 last year. So it was really kind of a struggle last year, and he ended up going to Driveline and looked to change things around. And then this year he was actually hitting pretty well. There was a time from like April through June where he looked like he was kind of locked in. Things have really just kind of spiraled and taken a turn for the worse recently. So Ty France was unfortunately placed on waivers. He was not claimed by another team. Any other team was free to claim him. He was not claimed, so he was unfortunately designated for assignment, and the Mariners will be on the hook for his salary for the rest of the season. But he will either be going to AAA, or could outright deny that and just be released entirely from the organization, or he could accept the outright demotion to AAA. It would also make sense for him to just accept the outright release if another team wants to give him an MLB opportunity, which I think could make sense. Even though he's at a, that negative 5 F4 or negative 0.5 F4 looks really rough. His numbers, honestly, this year are not that awful. He's got like a 96 WRC plus overall. So, I mean, if a team like the White Sox or the Marlins could, look at that production, and actually, it might very well be an improvement in their daily lineup. So at DH or first base, wherever that would be. So, that's, I don't think that France is done in the league, and obviously I'm going to be continuing to root for him as a person. He was just, such a a genuine person, and such a great story. Drafted in the 34th round of the draft in 2015. That's a round that doesn't even exist anymore. Local, like, Southern California kid who went to San Diego State and was coached by Tony Gwynn, like the godfather of hitting. And that obviously helped France as a hitter. And he looked to be really, really making a name for himself as an MLB player. He, had some great seasons, and looking at it in total, let's add it up now. So 0.6 F4 in 2020 plus, so that'd be 3.8, and then he had 6.3, 7.4. So yeah, France posted 7.4 F4 in just three and a half, not even 3.25 seasons. So yeah, he was a good player. Obviously, that career F4 total was diminished by the Mariners stint. But yeah, I mean, he was always like a well above average replacement player, and even last year where he struggled, he still was, I'd still say his offensive production was helpful. He also is almost certainly going to be the franchise hit by pitch leader for at least the next 2 decades, I would say. I don't see another player getting to, I believe, 89 or 90 career hit by pitches, which he will finish at as a Mariner. So yeah, just a really, really kind of unfortunate situation. We know what Ty France is capable of. We've seen it. He's been a 3-win player in Seattle. He's been an all-star in Seattle, and that unfortunately was not what his performance looked like this year. But yeah, thank you to Ty France. Plenty of incredible memories, and I know that it was probably really, really upsetting. Actually, I know that it was upsetting because he talked about it last year, about like the feeling of knowing that he could be traded and like wasn't viewed as a really necessary or like core piece, hurt, and obviously he's no longer on the team anymore. So yeah, that's just really, really saddening, to be honest. So yeah, that's about it. I'm next going to talk about Julio Rodriguez's fantastic July. He has unfortunately since ended up on the injured list. He attempted to make a catch. Actually, the ball ended up in his glove. He just was not able to hold on in Sunday's game against the Los Angeles Angels, which was one of the Mariners' only wins of the last week. The club has now lost 20 of their last 29 games. So yeah, things are pretty rough, and Julio went on the injured list. But he started to switch things around a bit, or started to switch things back a bit in July to his previous stance and load approach at the plate. He started to revert to some of his previous positioning and approach at the plate. And he's been hitting really, really well this month. He has got a 220 WRC plus in July, which is ridiculous. Still a 30% strikeout rate, which is a bit weird because I had noticed this as well. His K rate had kind of actually dropped by almost by 9% and then 8% from March and April to May and June. It's gone up again this month, but he's slugging the heck out of the ball. He's got a 688 slug this month, 434 on base, 375 average. That's likely not going to continue. 500 BABIP this month. Yeah, that's definitely not going to continue. But he's really been just making more impact contact with the ball. He's also there have been some really just exciting signs, it was actually on the July 3rd game or July 4th game against I believe it was later, but it was the series against the Padres where it was against Adam Mazur, and it was a slider. Adam Mazur, the Padres rookie, is obviously not a great pitcher, but he was able to look back or stay back a bit, and it wasn't like he was not on time for the fastball, so he just completely lost the at-bat. No, he actually stayed on time, and was in good position, was not a fastball, but it was a slider, and he absolutely crushed it and sent it 400 feet into the second deck at Petco Park. So that kind of adjustment for him mid-flight, mid-pitch flight is really, really exciting, something that we really haven't seen at all this year. And then he did the same thing against Framber Valdez curveball the other day. So that was really, really exciting too. And he had been fooled by that curveball, I think, 3 times before. So to finally like make that 4th adjustment in the game and just hammer it was exciting, to say the least. And both of those pitches were taken, or the Framber Valdez curveball home run was taken oppo too. So if he's able to sit back and drive a breaking pitch the other way, that's where Julio Rodriguez wants to be at the plate, and that's where the Mariners want him to be at the plate. So that's just overall exciting. I believe also before this month, if we go to leaders, he will not be qualified for this month anymore. But Julio's been like one of the best players in baseball this month, and he's almost doubled his F-WAR this month. So that's exciting. Also, Bobby Witt's at 7 F-WAR somehow. Just ridiculous. That's where Julio will be next year around this time. Come on. There we go. So 7, no. July 1st. No, not July 1st to July 1st. July 1st to... Why is this so challenging? Okay, July 1st to July 25th. Here we go. Dang, Lawrence Butler had almost 2 F-WAR during that period. That's crazy. I definitely did not mean to do that either. Oh, okay, there we go. So I don't believe Julio is qualified. But let's just lower it to like 30 plate appearances, because there also is somebody else who I want to highlight, who will be on this list. So Julio has 1 F-WAR in just 53 plate appearances. He has doubled his F-WAR on the season this month alone. And yeah, he's just been electric. And then the other guy that I want to mention... Oh, come on. Does he not even have 30 plate appearances this month? Or I guess Cal just has more F-WAR than him this month. Okay, I did not really see that coming, but... There we go. Victor Robles. Okay, Victor Robles only has 0.7 F-WAR this month. Okay, that's kind of lower than I thought. But yeah, Victor Robles still has a 205 WRC plus this month. He's batting 394, 474, 576 for a 205 WRC plus. Like I said, 0.7 F-WAR. He's actually provided negative value defensively, but that I'm not completely sure if that might just mean like small sample size, because he's been fine defensively in my opinion, and he's playing a good like backup center field right now, which is some exciting value that he does bring to the roster. But yeah, I just want to highlight Victor Robles a little bit, because the dude has been like just lights out as a Seattle Mariner. He came into the Mariners organization or came into the season like as a Mariner with like a 34 WRC plus on the year, and it's now at 129. Yeah, so he had a 33 WRC plus as a Washington National in 33 plate appearances, and then in 61 plate appearances since as a Seattle Mariner, he's got a 180 WRC plus, 365 /9, 441 OBP, 519 slug, 8.2 walk percentage, so he doesn't walk a lot, but 16.4 strikeout percentage. He's barely been striking out, like bringing a lot of helpful contact to the lineup. He started batting second, which is good. One thing that I will commend Scott for is that I feel like he has kind of recognized when players are on like a heater worthy of them being at the top of the lineup this year, like Rojas early in the season, Demo in like May, like recognizing that getting those guys in like 1 or 2 holes is actually really, really helpful to the team when they are hitting as well as they are. I commend Scott for that. But so Robles, had a 33 WRC plus as a national. He's now got a 180 WRC plus as a Mariner. Batting 286, 385, 390 overall in the season now with an overall 130 WRC plus. Just .8 F4. His .9 F4 as a Mariner, and then 0.0, and then had .0 F4 as a national, but .8 F4 overall. I'm not really sure how. One thing that I also want to mention, I tweeted about this about Victor Robles the other day too, is he had a 3.7 win F4 season, so almost nearly 4-win season in 2019 with a WRC plus below 100. He had a 92 WRC plus that year. His OPS was like 745. Yeah, it was a 745 OPS, so like obviously that's not a 92 WRC plus anymore. That's like a 110 WRC plus, because the league offensive environment is so different now. But I mean, still, nonetheless, that's just like, you really have to be a good player, and you basically have to play every day, which he played 155 games, and you have to steal a lot of bases and provide value in the running game, which he did. He stole 30 bases, or 28 bases, and then you have to be a good defender. He was playing a lights out center field, and that's how you get nearly 4 wins as a below league average hitter, which is just awesome. And then also with Victor Robles, I tweeted about this a few weeks ago too, but it's kind of only increased and increased. So he's got an 18.2 barrel percentage as a Mariner in 44 batted ball events. That's not going to continue, but I believe that he could continue. Well, actually, he's never really had a barrel percentage above 5.3%, but I'm believing that there might be something in his profile that he's unlocked at T-Mobile Park where he's able to pull the ball more consistently or just make more consistent barrels, because he's got a barrel percentage of 18.2% as a Mariner in just 44 batted ball events. He's also got a hard hit percentage of 43.2%. His max exit velo is 108.9, which is not great. But I mean, just the fact he's got 8 barrels as a Mariner is crazy. And he also... a few weeks ago when the Mariners got diced up by Garrett Crochet, like a month ago, it was Victor Robles who had 2 hits that game, or 2 barrels against Crochet that game. Let me find it, but and obviously that's with like the lefty platoon advantage. Because Robles was just like being platooned at that point. But I mean, I feel like he's kind of been on my radar since then. Just because he was the only hitter. So yeah, he had a double in his first at bat. Had a 107.7 exit velo against Crochet, and then his second at bat, or he had a strikeout. Third at bat was when he had a 108.9, which was actually his max exit velo for the year. Okay, was a line out, and he didn't have another AB. But yeah, I mean, he only went 1 for 3 that game against Crochet. But having those 2 barrels against Crochet, who the Mariners were just like not hitting against at all, he was untouchable basically for everybody else. But yeah, for Robles to come along that night and have 2 barrels was kind of noteworthy to me. And that's just continued. So let's go to his Savant page too, because I feel like it's worth it. I know it's kind of off the. Wasn't really expecting to talk about Robles, or I didn't have it in the episode itinerary, but Robles is absolutely worth talking about. So yeah. And I'm also curious about his outs above average. Like what... Okay, so yeah, he's like... StatCast has him at 0 OA. But let's see. Really high barrel percentage. That's like at least 80th percentile. Sweet or hard hit percentage is still lower. He's only in like 25th or 30th percentile for bat speed. But squares up a lot of balls. Doesn't chase a lot. Does whiff, but doesn't really strike out a lot either. And then he's walked. So yeah, that's just, that contact, it really is kind of surprising. And obviously I'm not expecting Victor Robles to continue with a, casual 362 BABIP and, 130 WRC plus, but if he does continue with, like, if he finishes the year with a 90 WRC plus, but has that, sub 20% strikeout rate, that's a lot more valuable to the Mariners offense as it currently stands. That 90 WRC plus is a lot more valuable to the Mariners offense as it currently stands with that contact focus and contact ability compared to, a 90 WRC plus with 22 not empty, but 22 home runs. That, that's that 90 WRC plus that's maybe not getting extra base hits every day, but is at least getting on base every day and is keeping a line moving every day and putting balls in play. That's going to be very, very helpful for a team. And that's kind of always what Victor Robles has been, even as a prospect. I believe he had like a 60 hit and only like 50 power. So he's always been more contact focused. But actually he had 65 hit. Okay, so I mean, yeah, there's always been like a above plus hit tool. Or plus hit tool potential, and then 50 game power. So yeah, he's always been like hit tool focused, like average power. But if that he lacks big raw power, but Robles has every tool. Yeah, so that was the prospects TLDR from Fangraphs a few years ago. But yeah, and I mean, there was a reason why Robles was such a highly touted prospect for a while. And I don't want to be ridiculous, but some guys just need to change the scenery, and maybe there really always was a perennial, 3F4 player in Victor Robles, and maybe the Mariners kind of lucked out in getting that. Maybe, like I said, all he needed was a change of scenery. So I guess one can only hope. Also, it's great to see Cal's hitting well this month as well. Eugenio Suarez also hitting really well this month. But yeah, that's about it. The next thing I wanted to talk about was I wanted to do some injury updates. So J.P. Crawford unfortunately suffered a broken hand. It is a hairline fracture, but that was on Monday night's game. They lost to the Angels, so he will be out at least 4 to 6 weeks. Dylan Moore will be playing shortstop in the meantime. Ryan Bliss was optioned back to AAA because he was not getting a lot of playing time, but that actually kind of made me happy. I'd rather him be getting everyday at bats in AAA. Leo Rivas was called up, and then Dylan Moore has been playing shortstop. I'm assuming that right now the shortstop depth chart is looking something like Demo and is like the first option. He's probably going to be getting a majority of the shortstop ABs, and then probably second would be Rivas, and then in a pinch, if they need it, I think Rojas would be the third string shortstop, but I'm not completely sure. Maybe Polanco. But yeah, shortstop defense is not really a strong suit for the Mariners right now. And then Julio had that injury. He unfortunately went on the 10-day injured list. He will be reevaluated in a week, and ideally he's only going to spend 10 days on the injured list. One thing that was a little bit not scary, but like a little bit maybe makes me believe that they don't have full confidence that Julio will be back immediately was that he was not put on the IL retroactive to Sunday that would have been Sunday the 21st. So yeah, he was not put on the IL retroactive to July 21st. He was put on the IL just 2 days ago on July 23rd. So yeah, I mean, he could have been technically back 2 days earlier. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. One thing that I should mention about Robles too. He's been stealing so many bases. He has 12 stolen bases. I think all of those are as a Mariner too. Let me see. Oh, okay. He had 4 as a National, actually. Okay. But yeah, I think might be 8 for 8 or 8 for 9 in stolen base attempts, and yeah, he's provided real value on the bases. Yeah, he's 8 for 8 in stolen bases as a Mariner, so that's pretty ridiculous. Geez, that's just crazy though. 365, 441, 365 batting average is ridiculous over 61 ABs. Like that's a pretty good hot streak. I feel like there's a definite amount of talent in that player. Next though, so Julio is going to be at least a few days. He'll be reevaluated. Hopefully he's only on the IL for the minimum of time though, which would allow him to be back on August 3rd, I believe. That's the soonest possible date where he can be back, and he'll be reevaluated on July 1st. But yeah, hopefully it'll be the minimum of 10 days. He won't need a rehab assignment or anything like that. Next is going to be Dom Canzone. Dom Canzone is unfortunately going to need a rehab assignment. He's going to. Justin Hollander said yesterday that he's going to fly down to Phoenix and play in the Complex League, I think. Although the Complex League season, I'm pretty sure, is actually ending today. So it might just be like some of the. They have like these. They're called scrimmages. They're essentially scrimmages. They're like games that don't matter where it's, like the. Not Twins, Rangers might be like, okay, we have, they might be like players who are on the fringes of like complex league, or on the fringe of like being slightly too talented for the complex league, or maybe they don't want to send them to affiliated ball immediately, slightly too talented for the DSL complex league, but not like ready enough for the complex league, which is now over. And they don't want to send him to a full season affiliate, so that's where the Instructs come in. So Dom Canzone might play in a few of those Instruct games, is the point I'm trying to get at. That was a long-winded way of saying it. But yeah, Dom Canzone might play in a few of those Instructs. And then he's probably might look at, one or two of those games, and then maybe like a week-long rehab assignment, probably a few games in Everett, and then probably like 4 or 5 games in Tacoma, which will be good. It will be nice to have his bat back in the lineup. He was kind of struggling, but still, he's a young player, and getting him consistent at bats is important. His power is always helpful. The fourth player I want to mention is Matt Brash. Matt Brash is ahead of schedule in his rehab. He's going to begin a throwing program next week or next month, next mid-month. Obviously not going to be back for this year, but that's exciting to hear that Matt Brash is healing well and that his arm is on schedule, because Brash is just such an important piece of the team that, quite frankly, they've missed this year, and would be really helpful next year. So yeah, that's it for the injury updates. Next, so I want to do a little minor league catch up. Actually, I'll talk about some minor league injuries too. So Johnny Farmello had the torn ACL. He had the surgery. Hollander said that yesterday. And then Felman Celestin, who was playing in the Complex League, he was out for almost a month, or like over a month. It was maybe slightly more than a month, with a wrist issue. He like dove for a ball, I guess, and then injured his wrist, and then went and saw a specialist who administered a shot. They didn't really think it did much, so they went to a second specialist to have another shot done. That shot helped, healed, and then went 2 for 2 in the first game back. Went 2 for 2, and then I guess tried to dive for a stolen base and injured the same wrist. So he's back out again, and he's been shut down again. Obviously not participating in baseball activities, which is a huge blow, because he was also likely to head it to Modesto as soon as the Complex League season was over, as he had been getting enough of these at-bats. He might still be headed to Modesto soon, though, hopefully this season. Colt Emerson is back playing for Modesto, which is good. Lazaro Montes has been playing for the Aqua Sox as well, still adjusting, kind of been struggling a bit. The whiff has been there a little more, but that's kind of expected against better high A pitching. And yeah, he looks to be kind of adjusting though, and he looks good in the field. Michael Arroyo also looking good. Brandon Garcia and Logan Evans. Logan Evans has obviously been transitioned back to a starting pitcher role. He just pitched a few innings the other day, looked good. Brandon Garcia had a bit of a rough outing the other day, but I really don't know like how much of it was his fault. There was kind of some like an error, and then Harry Ford in left field, who is obviously Harry Ford's newer to left field and taking reps out there, kind of misplayed a shallow fly ball. So yeah, there was just a few things. He ended up giving like 5 earned runs, but I really don't know if actually all those runs should have been earned. And then the final player I wanted to mention was Aiden Smith. Aiden Smith in Modesto. He currently leads the Cal League in doubles, but he has not played in the last week. He was a late scratch for a game on the 19th, I believe. He was the late scratch. No, would have been the 20th. So maybe the 21st. Actually, I'm not. I believe it was Modesto's second game back last week, though. That he was a late scratch. He played and then was in pregame warmups, and then something just didn't feel right. Obviously, I don't know what it is though, but yeah, something didn't feel right. He ended up not playing. So yeah, hopefully he should be back any day. Also, Ty Pete wasn't in the lineup for Modesto today, but I'm not sure if that was just. I believe that was just regular rest. And yeah, that's about it for the minor league catch up. All the affiliates have been doing better, or just continued winning. Besides major league club, but yeah, all the MLB or MILB affiliates have continued playing well, and yeah, it's been good. So my final thing, and this is going to be arguably kind of basically this is really what this is kind of my thoughts on the whole major league team, not just. And so yeah, this is the final part though. What do I believe a successful trade deadline looks like? So to answer this question, I think that a successful trade deadline, A, involves the Mariners pushing some sort of chips in. Now, whether that's a prospect as of the magnitude of like Harry Ford or Cole Young, where they're, like arguable top 20 prospects in all baseball, or Cole Emerson or Cole Young, probably better examples for that, but where they're like arguable top 20 prospects in baseball and are obviously, near major league ready commodities, particularly Cole Young, which is worth significantly more. Now, whether it's like that, or if it's, a lower level pitching prospect, or, lower level hitter like a Ty Pete or Aiden Smith, something like that, that I could also see. But I really think that with it being the buyer's or seller's market that it is, I lean towards maybe keeping those likely soon MLB quantities like a Harry Ford or like a Tyler Locklear, like Cole Young. I think I err on the side of keeping those players just because of how much of a seller's market it is. It almost seems like, you might have to end up paying a tax that you hope you wouldn't have to pay for. But with it being such a seller's market, there might be a tax you have to pay to acquire a bat that you would like, or a relief help that you would like. There might be a tax you'd have to pay that you just straight up wouldn't in the off season. Now, they're also in actual position to contend, and being in the middle of a season and in the position to contend is much different than the off season in a position to contend. They're actually like playing for a World Series right now. So I think I feel like my answer is just kind of roundabout, kind of a cop out, but to me it really depends on what another team is requiring you to give up, what other teams are willing to offer. But I think there are absolutely worthwhile players on the market. I initially was really interested in them, like getting a legitimate like relief, really like high leverage relief option like Colin Holderman of the Pirates. I don't think that's unfortunately viable anymore, because the Pirates are partially contending now, but also just because I don't know if they're going to want to give up that type of capital to acquire that kind of reliever. I think if they are going to get a reliever, it's going to be somebody who might help the team next year, but I honestly am. They have never really gone after rentals before, but I think that they might start to look towards the direction of like some players who might still be able to help the club next year, but these are not going to be like players who you make a huge splash for, and presumably they're like a member of their instantaneous addition to the team's core for like the next 3 or 4 seasons. I don't believe that type of move is happening. Now, who that type of move would be, I believe that would really only be like Luis Robert or Luis Robert, or like a Isaac Paredes of the Rays. I'm more than happy to look at Isaac Paredes of the Rays. I'll pull up his stats right now. He's been really an excellent third baseman. He has kind of a scary batted ball data profile, I guess you could say, but he also pulls home runs like nobody else. He really has a skill for doing it. So Paredes was like a 4-win player last year. He had 30 home runs. That is obviously really appealing, and he's also very young. I believe he's only 25. So let's see. Come on. Why is the player search still going? I'll just refresh the tab. Okay, so yeah, Paredes is only 25 years old. He's got a 130 WRC plus this year. He's already at 2.8 F4. He's got 16 home runs. Yeah, he's got a 131 WRC plus this year. Wow. He had 2 hits today, including a double. Last year he had almost 140 WRC plus. He's only gonna bat around 250. He's like power's the calling card. But yeah, it's legitimate power. He does not strike out a lot. Only struck out 18% last year, 16% this year. He walks. Just kind of a not necessarily like a pure hitter, but like a pure slugger. And yeah, somebody who would really be an important or valuable addition. Defensively, he's not great. There's not a lot of value like athletically on the bases or defensively. So he might not be a long-term third baseman. He might be a first baseman. But yeah, I mean, nonetheless, it's really just I think would be an exciting add. He severely outperforms his expected statistics, but he also just really, really has a knack for pulling the ball in the air. Oh, that is weird though. His max exit velo is like almost 3 miles an hour higher than a few years ago. There are, and I'll be honest, they're in my opinion kind of valid. There are a lot of people though who are slightly concerned that like he would just come to T-Mobile and is immediately regressed to like an 85 WRC plus bat. But I mean, with the Rays, he's been like a 4-win player. Was 4.3 F4 last year, 137 WRC plus, 31 home runs, like with an 18% strikeout rate and 10% walk rate. Sign me up for that all day. This year, still a 130 WRC plus, and yeah, the fact he's already at 3.8, or he's already at almost 3 F4 is kind of crazy to me. We can go to let's go to his Simon page. I'm mostly curious about how he grades out defensively. It's not going to be pretty offensively. .797 OPS this year. So yeah, actually, okay, he rates as kind of like slightly above average defender this year. Does not whiff a lot, doesn't whiff at all, doesn't strike out a lot, chases slightly above, chases not a whole lot, but about league average amount. But yeah, like xWOBA 30th percentile, XBA expected batting average 8th percentile, expected slugging 70th percentile, average exit velocity 4th percentile, barrel percentage 20th percentile. Paredes is better than all of that. And I mean, if you look at this spray chart right here, these purple are obviously, or pink are obviously home runs. 2023, it's even more apparent. But yeah, just look at that. This guy is always going to hit home runs here. He's just going to do it. He can. I don't know if he has an oppo home run in his career, which is crazy. But yeah, so 797 OPS. I mean, I would be all over somebody like Paredes. I think that really helps the team. And actually with Paredes, he does help the team long term. Let's see when, and only at a $3.4 million salary this year. Like another huge aspect, unfortunately, is the Mariners' budget payroll situation. Stanton said they had money to spend. Who knows? So yeah, next year will be first year of ARB. Wait, he's ARB eligible next year, but it says he's ARB right now. Okay, I'm not really sure why he's either in arbitration right now or not in arbitration right now. But yeah, one thing that is really, really frustrating is if the Mariners were to kind of take like a Padres-like approach where they are confident in their ability to always be able to replenish the farm system through drafts or international free agent signing periods. Like if they were able to operate like the Padres, who can, swing a deal and trade a first rounder or trade a top 100 prospect or multiple for like a Luis Arias or Dylan Cease, like they're in the position where they can trade multiple pieces for like a perennial 3-win player and get multiple years of that player. I don't even know if the Mariners are in that type of boat because they absolutely have the farm system to swing those kind of deals. It's whether they're able to it's whether they can take on the salaries of those players, and the salaries of those players are not even ridiculous. Like trading for Dylan Cease, you might have to pay him like $9 million this year and $13 million next year. Like that is a minuscule, no-brainer amount of money that the ownership group should be willing to invest during a contention window, and they're not, which is just like such an L. Ownership, awful, but we knew that, and yeah, it's just disappointing. This farm system is good enough. This team is good enough to where they should be able to push the chips in a little bit, and maybe if they really, if the scenario was right, they could maybe add like Isak Paredes and Pete Fairbanks and Luis Robert. Like they have the farm system to do that kind of thing, and really make this team like, wow, that is a World Series contender. They have two superstar or like star level bats, two more star level bats. Julio's turning it around, the pitching staff, and they just added an all-star closer or like real high leverage relief arm. Like that's just top to bottom, like really on paper a really good team. I don't know if that's going to happen. I would not expect that to happen. They probably don't have the salary to acquire a player like Luis Robert, who even at his 4-win output yearly or 5-win output yearly, which is seems like a no-brainer for his $20 million a year price tag, I believe, because I believe he has like 2 or 3 more club options at that price tag. Even though that seems like a no-brainer, they don't have money for that, and that's a shame. It's ridiculous. It's disgraceful. This is arguably the team's best core since 2000, I think, or I don't even think that's arguable. I mean, I think it's like no doubt the team's best core since the early 2000s, late 90s, and it's being squandered by an ownership group that are incapable of looking past long-term or short-term profits and short-term investments, and are just dead set on profits, money, money, money. So yeah, that's about it for this episode, though. That would be my overall thoughts and strategies for the Mariners this trade deadline. Thank you all so much for watching, and peace.